Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Brakahakwadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off in Mark chapter 3, verses 24 to 25. And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And this is a very true statement that Yahushai, the Son of the Most High, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus Christ, made. Look at what happened with the kingdom of Israel when it split into the northern and southern kingdom. It eventually collapsed, and it's been no different with any other kingdom in human history that divided internally. It's going to be no different with the United States of America today, which is damn near divided at every level you can think about, or these European nations in the EU or European Union, as well as NATO, which is what I'm going to be dealing with in this video. This is an article from CNBC.com titled France and Germany's Relationship Questioned as Scholz Goes Alone on Policy, and France and Germany are two powerhouses in the EU as well as NATO, and as we'll see in this article, there are divisions growing between them over a host of issues. Germany has been criticized for approving a 200 billion euro, 200.2 billion rescue package. French Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire said in the wake of this plan that the Eurozone needed to work together and avoid fragmentation, division among the 19 countries that share the common currency. French officials have denied any sort of tensions, but they have acknowledged that Germany's three-party coalition makes any sort of agreement slower to achieve. Fresh tensions between France and Germany are challenging their relationship at a time when their unity is critical for broader European policy in tackling the energy crisis. And this energy crisis in Europe, which is growing as a result of Russia's military operation in Ukraine, is just going to further divide these nations within the EU. You've got nations like Spain and I believe Greece who have enacted policies that allow people to only raise their thermostat to a certain number to avoid using too much energy, and a lot of other nations enacting policies to ration energy so that they'll have enough for this winter that's coming up, which is looking to be a very dark winter in Europe. And as those situations continue to deteriorate, again, it's just going to further drive divisions between these European nations. Some who are going to want to continue to be austere towards Russia and put sanctions on them over their military operation in Ukraine, and some that are going to walk them back because they're seeing how much the situation in Ukraine and them punishing Russia for it is heavily affecting them. The leaders of the two nations will meet in Paris on Wednesday, but this encounter almost got canceled. It was initially meant to be a broader discussion including government ministers. Then it was announced it was being postponed, and eventually it was transformed into just a meeting between the two heads of state. The Franco-Germans' historical commitment to close cooperation seems questioned, or at least challenged today. Alberto Alemano, professor of EU law at HEC Business School, told CNBC via email. He added that the action of German Chancellor Olaf Scholz is creating the deepest divides within the Union. And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. France and Germany are the two largest economies in the European Union, and two of the founding nations of this political grouping. Their unity is essential for EU policymaking. France and Germany have had their differences over how to tackle the energy crisis. While, for example, France defended a cap on European gas prices, the German government only agreed to do so last week, and with several conditions attached. Germany has also been criticized for approving a €200 billion, 200.2 billion rescue package looking to support German companies and families while blocking steps at the EU level to raise more money and support European nations with less fiscal room, such as the PIGS nations, Portugal, Italy, Ireland, Greece, and Spain, which are nations within the EU known to have weaker economic conditions. But from this paragraph, we can see that we can see that Germany is looking to support the people in its own country rather than looking to help with the situation for the collective wealth of the EU. French Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire said in the wake of this plan that the Eurozone needed to work together and avoid fragmentation among the 19 countries that share the common currency. In addition, there are concerns in the broader EU about Scholz's upcoming trip to China and for looking to do business with a nation that is increasingly deemed as a rival to European countries. So some of these European countries are looking to do business with other countries that are deemed hostile to not just Europe, but the United States of America. And while you've got a lot of European nations going against Russia, you've also got some that are still doing business deals with Russia behind the scenes because they know how important their relationship with Russia is. And some European nations moving more towards China as well as Russia is going to drive divisions between them and the US. And the US is a part of NATO. There are also issues with Germany's long delay in delivering weapons to Ukraine. Some European nations are more gung-ho in helping Ukraine fight against Russia, while others have more trepidation in doing so. The relationship is obviously strained, a development I blame mostly on the German government. Jacob Kierkegaard, senior fellow at the German Marshall Fund think tank, said via email, Scholz leads the first three-party coalition in German history and as such has less control over his domestic politics than previous German chancellors, on top of having ideologically often opposed coalition members in the Greens and FDP. He added, blown out of proportion. And I'm going to just jump to the last few paragraphs in this section. Analysts at political risk consultancy Eurasia Group have also noted that frustration with Berlin has grown across Europe. While the criticism initially centered around what was perceived by many senior EU officials as Berlin's limited military support for Kiev, member states across the board have now started to criticize Germany's fiscal and energy policies too, they said in a note on Tuesday. Disappointment with Berlin has now gone so far that it actually risks weakening the Franco-German alliance, the EU's single most important bilateral relationship, they added. So as we can clearly see from this article, the EU is divided, and it's only going to continue to divide as we get closer and closer to this final kingdom of the heathens ruling, which is being ruled by the biblical Edomites, or these so-called white people, collapsing and the ushering in of the kingdom of heaven under the children of Israel, who are known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today. Now I'm going to close it out in Daniel chapter 2. I'm going to start at verse 36. And this is dealing with the prophet Daniel interpreting the dream that King Nebuchadnezzar of the Neo-Babylonian Empire had, dealing with that statue of a man made of different metals, which represented the last heathen kingdoms that would rule before the ushering in of the kingdom of heaven. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings, speaking of King Nebuchadnezzar, for the power of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field, and the fowls of the heaven, hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold, the Neo-Babylonian Empire. Verse 39, and after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, the breasts and the arms of silver, the Medo-Persian Empire, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth, the thighs and the belly of brass, the Edomite Grecian empires. And now what came after that? The fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, the ancient pagan Edomite Roman Empire. For as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And now we're coming into the final heathen kingdom that would rule before the kingdom of heaven, and would also be ruled by the biblical Edomites. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the last leg of the Roman Empire, the reincarnated Roman Empire, the NATO-EU alliance that the U.S. is a part of, the kingdom shall be divided. And as we just read in that article on CNBC.com, hey, this kingdom, part of iron and part of clay, is clearly divided, with France and Germany having a lot of issues on how to deal with the upcoming energy crisis, and a lot of other European nations looking at Germany sideways, seeing them holding up a lot of progress in dealing with the coming energy crisis. But there shall be in it of the strength of iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, and the part of iron is talking about the stronger nations in this NATO-EU alliance, such as Britain, France, Germany, and the US, which is a part of NATO, and the part of clay are the weaker nations, again, the pigs, Portugal, Italy, Ireland, Greece, and Spain. But as we saw in that article, even some of the parts of iron are divided against each other. So the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And again, in Mark chapter 3, verse 24, and if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. As we get closer and closer to Yahushai HaMashiach's second coming, this final kingdom of the Edomites is going to continue to deteriorate and be divided and eventually collapse when Yahushai does make his second coming to save the elect of the nation of Israel and put an end to Esau and these heathens as a whole's rulership, and then set up the kingdom of heaven, which will be established and rule for eternity. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.